Media is also colliding with one of the most buzzworthy sectors on the street. That's tech and artificial intelligence. Well, joining me now to talk more about the media landscape is Rishad Tobaccowala. He's the author and former chief strategist and growth officer at Publicis Groupe. Rishad, it's great to have you on the show today. I see your book behind you that's going to be hitting shelves soon. What can you tell us about it?
Well, my new book, Rethinking Work, comes out February 4th in the United States. And it basically talks about how in between now and 2029, work will change more than it has in the previous 50 years or up to 2020. And basically, every company has to reimagine itself, its strategy, and every person who works is going to be very different.
What does that mean for the media industry in particular, Rishad?
There are a lot of different things in the media industry. I think what we're beginning to see is in the media industry, we're tending towards a company of one. What I mean by that is today, the creator economy of creators who create sort of media is $250 billion, according to Goldman Sachs. The total size of the journalism industry is 27 billion. So when people who believe mainstream media is niche media and niche media is mainstream media, it's the other way around, which is mainstream is niche and niche is mainstream. But the other is there are about 2 million people who earn over $100,000 creating online or in podcasts, etc. And they are about $100,000. There are less than 80,000 journalists who earn more than $100,000. So what we're basically seeing is this world of technology is enabling everyone, not necessarily to just become media, but become their own media company.
And what does artificial intelligence mean for members who are working in the media? How should they think about working with it instead of perhaps against it?
I think the best way to describe AI is AI should be called augmented intelligence versus artificial intelligence. It basically is going to be like electricity. Just like electricity has not replaced us, it's just enabled us to do more. We're going to be in this world of AI plus HI, where the augmented intelligence will enable human insight, human intuition, human interaction, human imagination, which a lot of the media world is fantastic at.
I want to get your take on TikTok because we did recently hear late last week that the Supreme Court is set to hear a TikTok case trying to prevent its ban in the U.S. on January 10th. What is TikTok's role in the current media landscape?
TikTok is extremely significant in the current media landscape. And in fact, there is a huge concern that without TikTok, two things will happen. A lot of people will find their ways of making money sort of disappearing. But the other is obviously people are already beginning to migrate to things like Instagram and YouTube, which you're beginning to see is one of the reasons why Meta and Google stock price, in addition to a lot of other things like AI, is going up. But as importantly, one of the things that TikTok has done is it has changed the entire media environment to be one of basically algorithmic scrolling and video driven. So increasingly, people are reading less and seeing videos more.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
Well, as someone who's a writer who writes it, I would sometimes think it's not a very good thing. But on the other hand, as long as you get communication, it's fine. And to give you an idea, I actually made a video trailer for my book to put on Amazon, to give you an idea of how I have to align with the trends.
Yes, there is something for everyone. And of course, I do know a lot of people who are on TikTok and others who have not yet adopted that platform. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, specifically with the new president set to take office on January 20th. When it comes to deal making, dollars on these platforms, Rishad, which ones are the most lucrative and how can people in the media take advantage of that?
Well, there are what I basically call the whales, and then there are the planktons. So the whales are basically the large 6 or 7 companies like an Amazon, like a Google, like a Meta, like a TikTok. And these are basically platforms that enable the plankton, which is people like myself and other creators, where we basically use their technologies and their distribution process to help us both create and to distribute. The immediate reality of it is eventually the best people have authentic voices and actually have something fresh to say. And so to a great extent, what I would basically say to anybody who is a journalist or a creator, practice your art and craft and then let these companies take care of the technology.
One thing that I want to get your take on, Rishad, is cryptocurrency. I think social media in large part fueled a lot of the interest that we've seen in cryptocurrency, very much back in focus, and of course talked a lot about on social media. If you look at that as a case study, what does that tell you more on the topic of authenticity and using these social platforms to make change?
Well, there are a few things. The first one really is authenticity is the key thing here. I just read a recent report by the Schonston Center at Harvard, which basically says that people trust creators sometimes more than they trust journalists, primarily because the creators have to constantly claim and show that they are actually true. So to a great extent, when it comes down to cryptocurrencies, there's obviously a part of cryptocurrencies that is highly speculative, but things like, Bitcoin and blockchain, etc., have an underlying use case, whether it's a value creation or a liberal creation. So to a great extent, if you think about anything, whether it's storytelling or money, everything is built on other people accepting the story or accepting the money. And to an extent, as things like crypto have become more mainstream, in itself, it has created a virtuous loop upwards. Now, again, I'm not necessarily encouraging people to invest in cryptocurrencies, but I do believe blockchain is for real, and certain things like Bitcoin might also be real.
Rishad, great to get your take, especially as we prepare to enter 2025. That's Rishad Tobaccowala, author and former chief strategist and growth officer at Publicis Groupe.